So whenever you're making a map, especially in the GIS system, it's so much easier now to make a map. There's a lot of chances to make mistakes. And one thing, a simple rule that you always have to do, that you always have to think of, is you need to think of the map user. So while you're sitting at your computer, you have to keep in your mind at all times that whatever map that you create, someone's going to be reading it and they need to understand what's going on that map. This is known as the communication channel. And the idea here is both the cartographer and the map reader have a sort of cartographic language that they are actually using to speak to each other. When you're choosing symbols and generalizations to represent the actual environment, you're using kind of a cartographic grammar or syntax. You're working with metaphorical descriptions that you put on the map that the map reader reads. So it's important to use things that a map reader would understand, like for example, water should be blue, because that's just how we have a common idea of what that water is blue on maps. If you had a map with water as red, it might seem kind of strange for the map reader. It might cause confusion. So you as a cartographer are sitting here and you're looking at the geographic environment. And so you have this complex world that you're simplifying. So you compile this and understand it and try to get a good understanding of what's happening on the world. And from that, you're going to recognize, you're going to select things to show, you're going to classify them. Like for example, this bridge, you might classify it into a road network. You're going to simplify it. This bridge you might make into a straight line, and you're going to symbolize it as a line. And you can see here in the map, you are simplifying and making this much easier to read based off your understanding of reality. That then is created into a map. But the map user is going to be taking this map and doing the opposite. They're going to be looking at the map itself and imagining what the actual reality is. And so when they read this map, they're supposed to have in their mind the same picture that you had in your mind whenever you were reading the environment and compiling it into symbols. They need to be able to read the symbols and imagine what the environment is. Whenever you have very good overlap of what your picture is and what their picture is, this is where we have our understanding. This is where the communication channel is working. The more overlap you have, the better map you're going to have. Just remember one thing is that whenever you are making maps, that you are taking real world phenomenon and making them into representation. This is going to greatly simplify the world, and it's going to be generalizing the world, and you're going to be using symbols to represent real things. So the most important decisions are going to be how much simplification do you do, because you don't want to have an overcomplicated map, and how to symbolize the relationships being represented. And your goal whenever you're simplifying and representing is that whatever you recognize in reality, the map user can imagine that same reality. And if you keep the map user in mind at all times, you are going to make better maps. That's just how there is to it. And whenever you're a map user, be critical. Read those maps and think, how could this map be better? How could it make a better how can it help me imagine the world better from this map?